Good morning, everyone. I will now invite our panelists for this particular session. Mr. Uday Narang, who is the founder and the CEO at Omega Seiki Mobility. Anish Kumar, who is the founder at SwitchLabs. Mr. S. Parthiban, who is the General Manager of Product Development and Advanced Engineering at Ashok, Leyland. Mr. Sunil Bhatnagar, who is the CXO at IPLT Electric Trucks. And Mr. Saurabh Batla, who looks after charging infrastructure at GOBP. And this particular session will be moderated by my colleague, Ashpreet Sethi from Breakthrough Agenda and ICCT. Now, before we dive into the panel discussion, I'd just like to take some time to set the context for this session. We all know that trucks contribute 3% of the on-road vehicle fleet, but are responsible for nearly half of the CO2 emissions from the road transportation sector. And there are a number of alternative pathways that have been discussed in the public forum that could potentially reduce the CO2 emissions from the road transportation sector. We have ICCT did a life cycle greenhouse gas emissions analysis of these alternative technologies, and we find that only battery electric trucks reduce the most amount of GHG from their life cycle operations. The reduction is in the range of 17% to 37%, and the reductions are greater when the battery electric truck is powered by renewables-based electricity. Fuel cell electric trucks are also good, but only when powered by green hydrogen. Now, India has certain climate commitments limiting to sub 2-degree emissions warming by 2050 under the Paris Agreement goal and achieving net zero emissions by 2070. However, in order to honor these commitments, we find that India will have to achieve 100% zero emission truck sales by 2050. Apart from being climate friendly, electric trucks also contribute to energy security and are also good for improving the air quality in Indian cities because of the zero tailpipe emissions. But what is happening globally? As we saw in the video, there are these 5 effective policies that have been driving the adoption of zero emission trucks in some of the progressive markets. The first of this is the targets, which are essentially the overarching political statements that set the tone for the policies and ensure that the manufacturers and consumers are making the investments in this particular technology. We have the supply side regulations, which are also targets, but are more legally binding in nature and are usually introduced in the form of CO2 regulations, fuel economy regulations, and even ZEV mandates. Then we have the incentives, which are fiscal or non-fiscal in nature. So these are things like purchase subsidies, toll waivers, or even restriction-free movement of trucks in the cities. The fourth is the charging infrastructure, which include roadmaps to ensure that a gradual deployment of charging infrastructure is happening in the country. And then the demand side requirements, which are essentially mandates, but for the fleet operators to ensure there is demand creation and adoption of zero emission trucks gradually. A number of the governments are committing to sales of 100% zero emission trucks. We have the Europe, the UK, the Chile that have committed to a complete phase out of diesel trucks starting 2035. Interestingly, our neighbor Pakistan has also committed to 90% electric truck sales by 2040. China is leading this transition, both in terms of volume and sales penetration. About 80,000 zero-emission trucks were sold in 2023 in China, which contribute to 7% of the total truck sales. And most of these sales are happening in the rigid truck segment. The heavier segment, which is the tractor trailers, are also seeing gradual adoption of electric trucks. And if we look at the technology, we find that 90% of these zero-emission trucks were battery electric trucks. The fuel cell electric trucks only formed a very small share. And if you look more closely, 20% of the zero-emission trucks were battery swap capable. And most of the battery swap capable trucks were sold in the heavier tractor trailer segment and the dump truck segment. Next is Europe, where the zero emission trucks grew twice over the previous year and comprised 1.6% of the total truck sales in 2023. Most of these sales are happening in the light and the medium duty truck segment. Heavy duty trucks are also catching up. The sales share was about 0.9%. But it is important to note that this year, Europe adopted some of its most ambitious CO2 regulations in the world, which ensure that 42% of the zero emission truck sales will be achieved by 2032 and 80% by 2040. Next is US, which is also seeing a gradual increase in the zero emission truck sales, where the increase was more than twice over the previous year. And a lot of the truck sales, 70% of the zero emission truck sales happen in the heavier class 8 tractor truck segment. And like Europe, the US also adopted its GHG emission regulations, which target 36% zero emission truck sales by 2032. Now, where does India stand? We have a few legacy OEMs like the Ashok, Leyland, Tata Motors, IPLT Electric, and other new age startups that either have electric trucks ready or are planning to launch in the next couple of years. We have a few companies as well that are piloting electric trucks. Most of them are the cement companies which are piloting electric trucks in the closed loop operations. And we've heard how electric trucks are significantly expensive to purchase compared to the diesel trucks, but we found that on a total cost of ownership basis, the battery electric trucks will be at par with the diesel trucks within the next 5 years. And this is without any consideration of government incentives. When we add incentives, things like purchase subsidies, toll waivers, road tax waivers, we find that the TCO of the battery electric trucks will be cheaper compared to the diesel trucks today. When we look at the policy ecosystem so far, most of it is focused on manufacturing and the regulation side of things. We've had the phased manufacturing program, BS6 standards, production-linked incentive scheme, guidelines for charging infrastructure, and also the fuel consumption standards which were implemented last year. But things like high upfront cost, lack of long-term policy certainty, lack of charging infrastructure, lack of access to financing are some of the key items that do need attention. So with this, what can India do to scale electric trucks? What can India do to bring electric trucks from margins to the mainstream? With this, I hand it over to my colleague Ashpreet to take this discussion forward. Thank you.
Great, am I audible? Thank you. Harsimran, that was fantastic. What a fantastic research. And we have a wonderful panel sitting here with a host of experts. The number, the data that clicked for me personally was 100% electrification by 2050. So can we just get a round of observations, applause as well? Thank you, Mr. Narang. We definitely appreciate an applause. But a round of observations on how achievable are these targets, and we have industry stalwarts here, sitting right here. So if you could give an idea of what would it take to achieve this target? So we can start with Mr.
Yeah, first of all, really, Ashpreet, great to see you here. And ICCT, thank you. And Amit San, you're doing some great work, and your team, so really appreciate it. I was clapping because I just got off a plane at 2 a.m. from Zurich. I was at my home for some work last couple of days. And I was saying 2050, I heard something about Pakistan in 2040. And I'm laughing a little bit because I think we've been talking about this year quite a bit on electric trucks. And I think that, I know you guys are doing a lot of push into this. I'm continuously pushing on electric trucks. That is the need of the hour. But I'll be honest with you, and I know Qureshi just left, and so if I was here, I'd always tell him that too, or so they're great guys. But I don't think we can depend too much on the government in India for electric trucks. I'm sorry, I always speak my mind, you know that. I know in your last avatar, you were also at an organization that was building trucks. We built trucks, and then now, we've gone back to the drawing board, and hopefully, I'm going to be able to build trucks, at least in the 1 ton and in the 3.5 ton, that actually beats, that could beat the diesel and the TCO model. Because in India, this is not Europe, this is not United States, we all know that. Uncle Joe can be passing out dollar bills for putting electric vehicles or green energy, but this is not going to happen in India. And I think the only way we're going to scale this up, and if you think 2050 is going to happen, is by an industry. Now, we can't possibly have public-private partnership, but what I have seen here over the last 2 to 3 years is that I think it has to be more private and less public. Because if we're depending on the public side of things, it just drags on. And I don't think even today, we have a very clear policy. They just seem to dibble-dabble a little bit. But I think it's extremely important, in this country. And how can we do it? We can do it, by reducing cost. And how do we reduce cost? Whether you bring it with swap, whether you bring it with fast charging. We talk about long-haul trucks. In Europe and America, you can, probably run 600, 700 kilometers. They have the charging infrastructure. For me, right this second, first, we've got to get on that 1 ton, the 3.5 ton. The bigger trucks, yes, you can run 1, 2, 3 pilots, and a lot of pilots are being run. And I'm talking about actual volume. When we want to get volume, I think those are the regions that we need to, areas where we need to focus on. I'm 100% focused on this. Electric trucks is absolutely most important in my view. 2050, I would really hope we can get, if we can get a 50%, I'll be very happy. 100%, I think it's a bridge too far at this moment. But, things can change. Technology is changing. The only thing that is going to work in this country is, I love all these, conferences. We talk about it. I have one question in here, apart from maybe the people from abroad. How many of you have an electric vehicle? Can I have a show of hands? Yeah. So if you look at it, it is minimal. It's really good to see, some of our fellow beings. We all talk about it, but why they're not more electric players? 2 things. First, they'll say it costs more. Nobody gives a monkey about the environment. Sorry. Again, I'm being very direct, because if they did care about the environment, every hand would have been electric or alternate. I'm not saying electric. I think we really owe it to this country. We owe it to the future generations. We've got to go electric. 2050, I'm hoping that we get to 50. If we get to 100, Ashpreet, we'll be more than happy than that. But I think let's have realistic targets, and that's where we get there. Sorry, guys, if I said something which, if you're running big trucks or whatever, because I'm not seeing the volume. If the trucks were there, how many total volume of trucks have been registered on Vahan? Thank you very much. Sorry to be very direct.
No, thank you so much, Mr. Narang. Mr. Narang and I have a history for the audience where we fought in the past as truck manufacturer representatives, and he's always reprimanded me saying, young lady, we don't need investments. So it's good to hear that. But it would be great to hear Mr. Kumar on his thoughts as well.
Hey, thanks Ashpreet, and thanks ICCT. I think at least bringing the discussion on the table for electric heavy duty trucks in particular, because we have been working on it for the last 2 to 3 years, and there hasn't been much of discussion on it. To start with, this is a very good platform, and yeah, I agree with Uday on the scale that we want to achieve till 2050. I mean, it looks a little on the upper side. But also, on the other hand, the kind of penetration that we have seen in terms of 2-wheelers or 3-wheelers in the last 3 to 4 years, I think the primary barrier to the adoption remains with economical feasibility of these trucks, because India is a very price-sensitive market. We have been talking to a lot of clients, and let alone green premium, but they want a reduction with electric trucks, which is quite a big ask, I would say, because these trucks are, as said and as mentioned, 2.5x of the diesel counterpart, added with a higher rate of interest in terms of lending, because there is no mainstream bank or any particular, I would say, institution backing as a lender with these trucks. So you add the capex plus high rate of interest, it becomes very difficult to match that rate, let alone the So it's very difficult, but as Hanif sir also said, basically to prioritize the adoption of these trucks, we need support in terms of finances to start with. It could be on the OEM side, which is incentives on the manufacturing side. It could be on the operator side, like as I saw in the video, waiving of the toll charges, for example, for a heavy duty truck can itself save 2.5 rupees to 3 rupees per kilometer, which turns out to be a decent saving when you see the monthly cost, monthly running of these trucks, which is around 10,000, 11,000 kilometers. So on the operator side, also bringing the finances, like the lending partners, cheap, I would say affordable finance on these trucks will also reduce the EMIs and the leasing costs. The third is basically also encouraging the end client, which is in this case industries who would be adopting heavy duty trucks. These incentives could come, I don't know, like from government, as in tax benefits, carbon credit markets, but there has to be some incentive from the client side to adopt these trucks as well. So these are the three key players which will, I feel, which will play a great role in adoption of these trucks. Whether it will happen, not happen, not much thought on it, but I think it's possible and we are doing it. Scalability is a concern currently, but definitely this is a proper doable model in the next 5 to 10 years.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar. Mr. Bhatnagar, would you like to add?
It's working now? Yeah, sorry. I am from IPLT. We are manufacturers of heavy duty electric trucks in 55 ton category. So we have two models there in 55 ton category and we are working on more models. We started this project around 4 years back and we thought that a big market of heavy duty electric trucks will come. First year gone in R&D and then another 6 to 8 months in homologation. Around 2.5 years back, we launched our trucks. And we are working mainly in the closed loop circuit because of infra issues on the highways. So we are working with cement industries or steel industries, aluminum, loading, unloading, heavy construction industry and all that. Where charging is not an issue because it is running in a closed limit, in a closed area, or maybe from plant to the warehouse, which is close to 200 kilometers or 300 kilometers. So that kind of thing we are working till the infra is coming up. Now the challenge is, see basically why this adoption is so slow. Because when we launched at that time, around FAME 1 was running at that time, we thought that we will be covered in FAME 2. But somehow trucks were not covered in FAME 2. So the initial cost is very high. And the demand incentive which is available to e-buses is close to 20,000 rupees per kilowatt hour. And they are also using around 250 kilowatt hour of battery. And we are also using 258 kilowatt hour battery in our truck. So the demand incentive there are work out to be more than 50 lakh rupees. So your initial cost is very low in that case. But without demand incentive, these trucks are very expensive. So initial investment is very high. So we are taking up at different platforms in FAME 3 if at least trucks are incorporated and we get some incentive. So it will be a very good thing for promotion of the trucks. Because if you talk of 100% electrification and all that, then we need government support. Individual can do the projects like we have done the project, but if government support is not available, then it's become challenging. So that is one thing. Second thing is about the engineering part. Because what is happening when we do heavy duty electric trucks, now government has come with the ACC scheme for cell manufacturing. But presently everybody is importing cell. So that is a big cost to this thing. And technology is changing very fast. So that is also another challenge. That 1 year some technology is there, next year the technology is totally changed. So that is also a challenge. So government is working on all those lines like ACC scheme of 18,200 crores come and now cells will be available. In the meantime, we have put up our own battery assembly plant where it is of the capacity of 2.2 gigawatt hour for our in-house use only. Whatever trucks we make, we will put the battery from inside. And after putting this plant, the cost has come down slightly. But once the cells are also available, then cost will come down further. So for adoption, we have to see that how much we can rework in India because like the PMP program, we always talk about the phase manufacturing program. So if most of the components are made in India, then the cost will definitely come down. There is no problem. But with the present cost, the running cost is very low. So your OPEX is very good. So here you save a lot of money in OPEX. So that is the plus point here. And apart from that, government should give relaxation in tolls and in octroi. Octroi is a big headache. Basically in octroi, sometimes we pay 5 to 7,000 rupees per day in octroi because such a high octroi levels are there. So what incentive you have if you pass a ICE vehicle or you pass an electric vehicle, the octroi is same. So these kind of things should be addressed, and all the challenges regarding infra and backward working should be addressed. Adoption is not an issue. They are very efficient truck. Whoever is running, they are so happy. They don't want to go to ICE back. Very comfortable cabin. There is no engine, no heat, no thermal problem. All the motor, battery, everything is liquid cooled. So temperature is very good inside the cabin. Driving is very excellent. It is very smooth. It is automatic plus manual, both kind of things are available. So these challenges we have to see and address. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bhatnagar. If we could hear Ashok Leyland on this as well. Mr. Parthiban, please.
Yeah, thanks, ma'am. Good morning, all. I am Parthiban from Advanced Engineering, Ashok Leyland Limited. In fact, we are the second largest automotive industry next to Tata Motors in India. We make vehicles right from 2-tonner up to 55-tonner. Currently, we make diesel, CNG, and since last 2.5 years, we have been focusing on this alternate energy. BEV, hydrogen, fuel cell electric, LNG and CNG, of course, hydrogen ICE also. So in all the 5 technologies, we are parallelly working because we also do not know, we are not very sure which one is going to win. Of course, now that we have better clarity on BEV and also hydrogen FCV, it may be to 80-20, maybe by whatever projections strategic says by 2070. So here I would like to have emphasize few points here. For 2070 target of zero emission, the challenges could be like this. Unlike two-wheeler, three-wheeler or cars, where the initial cost we can say 20 to 30% when you when compared to its counterpart, say 1.3x of your petrol scooter or 1.5x of petrol scooter. Here it is minimum is 2.5 times. That's what the video shows. But the 2.5 times is subject to the battery capacity. I assume the battery capacity would have been only 200 kilowatt hour or 300 kilowatt hour maximum. If you insist for a long haul truck where you should go in per charge for a 300 kilometer, if it's a 55-ton truck, then we may have as high as 500 kilowatt hour battery. Something it is going to be increasing the cost of our truck to 4x to 5x. Then who will buy? Please think of. So whatever people have raised hands, thank you very much. You have shown interest on buying electric trucks or electric cars or two-wheelers. But who in commercial truck, the commercial truck operators, if you take LCV particularly, they are all individuals. They get loans and they have to pay EMI. They are not supposed to stop the vehicle for even a single day. Their revenue is lost. That is the situation in India today. So nobody is afford to spend that much cost, a 2.5x to 3x cost, and pay EMI as long as there is no return on investment. So that is a hesitation here, kind of a chicken or egg situation here. But you can ask us, government is giving us a PLI, government is insisting about fame. But because of very, very low volume projection, very, very low volume demand, we are not able to localize it here. Of course, my friend Sunil has told about a battery. But unless until there is an special focus, special investment from companies, and we are also not very sure whether it's going to work out, unless there is a demand from the industry, then there is no business case. So here I would see, even though government has many policies, we should have a government's mandate, kind of a mandatory buying. Maybe it should start from the government sectors, public sectors, private sectors. There should be a target, yearly target, maybe by 2030, they should have, every year 10% should have been electric, whatever they are going to purchase. So that kind of a mandate demand should be there, unless until today we have for the end buyer is there, but there should be a kind of a mandate, unless until there is a mandate. Today there are incentives, I agree, but unless until there is a mandate for buying the truck itself. It should be something similar to in Delhi, where 100% is CNG. Few years back, it was insisted. Same way, it should be done for all trucks. Something is one thing. Second one, on the incentive side, or how to break this ice, is instead of looking at the pure EV, the same incentives can be given for an hybrid trucks also. Because hybrid trucks also is 50% EV. Moment it is populated inside the market, then all the suppliers, the component suppliers are encouraged to do the localization. Because today the volume is the main challenge for all the component makers. If the volume is there, automatically the localization will automatically take place. So this is two things. Second thing, third one could be the swappable battery. Why I am saying is for the very long haul tractor and trailer, where it is required to go at a say 1500, 2000 kilometers, he cannot stop charging every half a day. So unless until, and he has to wait for another 1.5 hours to 2 hours, which is not practically possible. So only way to break this ice is, we should parallelly consider a reliable technology in swappable battery also. Today, unfortunately, it's not there. So industry should focus on the swappable battery also, so that we'll be able to penetrate this market and somehow we start the count. Thank you very much.
Too many points from Sir. But thank you so much for that.
I heard most of the panelists saying around, there should be a increase in the demand to make it more sustainable. I totally agree with them from a business standpoint of view. From a charging standpoint of view, I think most of the charging point operators, if you see in India, are focusing more on a four-wheeler, which means four-wheeler passenger car charging network, right? Because there the volumes are coming and they are building up charging infra inside the city on highways, right? But especially in trucks, I would suggest there would be a different, there's a different view, because you can put a charging infra at premium restaurants or food points for a four-wheeler passenger car passenger, but for a truck guy who's moving, who's running for 24 hours he's driving, or maybe 20 hours he's driving, he would want a different kind of setup, because he cannot enter into a premium food point and have his food over there. So probably that's why if you see GOBP has built up something called truck stops across India, and where we are putting up EV charging infra also, where a driver can come and take rest and go for washrooms and use the convenience, whatever convenience facility available there. So I think that is one point on a charging infra side that is different from a normal four-wheeler passenger car charging infra and then and a truck infra. And obviously there's a need to upgrade the charging infra in terms of, if you see in most of India, people generally CPOs are putting up 60, 90 kilowatt chargers on a fast charging, but we need to upgrade this scale to 120 or more than beyond that also for the truck charging infra to utilize, right? Especially I think the role of government in terms of providing, or the discoms, I would say that the role of getting power, discoms in getting the power easily at the charging infra is very crucial, because there are many discoms where we have to, spend 2 to 3 months to get the charging infra, and that too comes with a cost of that we have to spend for the transformers, of putting up the transformers over there and the cables around it. So which again, it makes a long, it makes the business very unsustainable in terms of cost point of view. And so that is one point that I want to make, that really help on the discom side, that would be helpful. Yeah. So these, I think, are the two parts which probably will require to make e-trucking industry flourish in the near future.
Great, thank you so much for that. So what we've heard so far, there are 2-3 important, or rather keywords that come up are policy interventions. There's lack of clarity on the different kind of policies that come in India over the years. Incentives, we do need for some segments, while Mr. Narang might disagree. We need cost parity. Cost parity has already been established across the board. It's more about building those business innovative models which can be implemented. So may I request all the OEMs on the panel, if you could elaborate on what are some of the business models that could be explored?
Look, I definitely think the way to take it forward, and We saw it in the two-wheelers. We've definitely seen it in three-wheelers. My point continuously will go, we've got to have the TCO model work. Why is the customer not buying it? And I'll tell you, I keep saying this, I don't think at this moment, from my 2 cents, the government is as focused on giving you a handout. I just don't. I know we can talk about it. I know pushing is important, but I think they've got other agendas right now to deal with. But I think what can happen, and I think I keep saying, whether it's the 1 ton, 3.5 ton, and bigger trucks, is how do we bring the total cost ownership down? Now, one of the options is battery, right? Battery cost almost 30% of the vehicle, especially in the bigger trucks. I've spent enough time around trucks, especially electric trucks, with my partners internationally. I think swapping is a solution. We work very closely with Sun. Sun is working on this. Others are also working on this. But I think that the leader in this country right now in swapping is Sun. I think all the rest are just a lot of talk, but they're actually leading. I know I work with Chaitan on multiple things. I'm sure all of you have also worked with him on this. I think battery swapping will reduce the cost, and I think if we get the enough infrastructure around, I think that's something. I know powertrains and motors and all of those costs are coming down, right? I think battery as a service is also now getting very good momentum. See, one of the things is, you're talking about high, interest rates is, I was a banker for 30 years myself, and I think from the side of the funds that support this, what's the resale value, right? Is there a resale value of an electric vehicle? Then only will they be able to give you a lower rate of interest to say, now there has to be some sort of a price break and a long-term, if you show a 5 or a 7 year model on the vehicle, that it makes sense on leasing, I think you'll see more. But I also think, some sort of, if it's not going to OEMs, it actually goes to the demand side. Freight is very, very sort of, it's a very disjointed market in our country. It's not like Europe and US or Japan or Korea, where the fleets are owned in very large volumes. They own 4 to 5 trucks. It's run by a smaller group. I think that and this is where I think we all have to combine forces together. I don't think this is a competition. This is sort of, how do we align forces together to actually build, and I think what we saw in the three-wheelers and the two-wheelers is, as soon as you bought the TCO model, demand picked up, and everybody wanted to go to have it. So I think the work on this space in swap, fast charging, where you don't need to put such a big battery, if you can work, you work with charging infra, we're coming up with something which is 10-minute fast charging. So if intra-city, I get 100 can do 200 within a 10 to 15 minutes, I think you've solved the intra-city issue. Now the long-haul trucks, in my belief, will take time because to actually get the cost benefit, right, it will take, a swapping infrastructure. It will take a combination of public-private partnerships. You need charging on the long, on the long roads. But I think that's happening. All the negativity, there's a lot of work in this country that is happening in this space. And I think there is absolutely, Parthiban san, I'm with you. There could be a hybrid model where, Toyota only talks about hybrid, they don't talk about EV at all. But what I was going to say is that is something that could be a reason. I will say, in this situation, it'll be more like Bill Rome and they will come. You've got to keep combined forces, with all of you guys, the big guys and the startups, to work on this. I think the startups are going to be able to work pretty much in the smaller 1 to 3.5 ton. I think the startups to build a huge infrastructure for the bigger trucks is not possible in my view. But I think while we build the smaller 1 to 3.5, the bigger trucks can be, all the big, players in this country. And once you have that sort of ecosystem built, I think but it's clear, it's the need of the hour. And I think that more and more that companies can combine forces with, I think we did it in the 2 and the 3, and the 4-wheelers should be the most agenda. My personal belief is, and ma'am, I'm even make a more controversial statement, is they should cancel the subsidy on the 2 and the 3-wheelers. Bhavesh is going to have a field day with me on saying this. but I would say there should be no subsidy because the TCO model works. They should use all of that money that they're giving to 2 to 3 into 4-wheelers. And I think that would maybe be a sort of suggestion also.
Can we use a more politically correct work and say rollback subsidies on 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers rather than saying cancel? Great. Would the other OEMs want to?
I will add 2-3 points to this discussion. See, first thing is that when you operate a ICE truck, the rough cost of diesel and all that comes to around close to 35 rupees per kilometer. But when you operate a heavy duty truck, like in our truck, we are getting a mileage of 1.2 kilowatt hour is used per kilometer, means approximately 10 rupees only. So there is a heavy saving compared to ICE to electric. 25 rupees saving per kilometer. And it all depends on the running. ICE trucks generally, because of their nature and because of the heat and all that, they run only 200 to 300 kilometers in a day. Many studies are there, including ICCT study, which shows this figure. Whereas in electric, running electric for 400 to 500 kilometers is very easy. Because in one charge, you are getting approximately 200 kilometers of running. And you can do one charge because driver will definitely take some lunch or some rest somewhere. So you can take one more charge there and you can do easily 400 kilometers. So your TCO and payback periods become very easy and very fast. So that is one thing. Second thing is after sales. In electric, because you have a powertrain, you have a battery and there is hardly anything else to run the truck. Whereas in ICE, you have thousands of parts. So whenever you go for service, you spend a lot of money in filters and oil and many things here and there. But in electric, there is hardly any service because battery doesn't need any service, powertrain doesn't need any service. So the wearing part is only your tires and bulb or maybe some 1 or 2 screw here and there, something like that. So your after sales is very low. So adoption of electric is very easy that way. And the third challenge which is coming is about the financing because this is a new technology. So people think, okay, it will work or not work. Maybe after 3 years what will happen or after 4 years the batteries to be changed and all that. So a lot of anxiety is there in public and especially in the financial institution that how it will behave. So what IPLT has done to address this anxiety, we don't discuss battery and life. We say you take a AMC of 10 years or 9 lakh kilometers, whichever is earlier. So your all questions are answered here. You don't have to answer or think about anything that what will happen to battery because in AMC, everything is covered except for tires and bulb, which is variable part basically, so nobody will cover that. But as far as powertrain or battery replacement is concerned or new technology are concerned, everything is covered for 10 years. It is just headache free. And for financial institution, it becomes very easy if the manufacturer says that, okay, my truck will last for 10 years. We even give more AMCs if somebody is interested. We are open for 15 to 20 years also. There is no problem at all. We are open to that kind of thing. But presently people are taking 10-year package. So whatever trucks we have sold, around 125 to 150 trucks are already running on the road. And few of the trucks have even done 3 lakh kilometers individually. And the total fleet has done more than 40 lakh kilometers up till now. So this adoption is easy. Basically there are some challenges which industry and government has to come together and address. So what all challenges are there from the infra side or from the government side, government has to address. Industry has to address the challenges what they see. About the charging and this thing, see the technology is changing very fast. So now we have fast charging batteries, you have liquid cooling inside the battery, you have to just set the temperature. Because what will happen if you do fast charging, a lot of thermal effect will happen in the cells and a lot of heat will be dissipated which will compromise the life of the battery. So you have a cooling arrangement in your battery, you can set temperature at 28 degree or 30 degree what is convenient to you. And as you do fast charging, the heat is generated, the cooling will take place. So that is not a big thing. So if you do 1C charging, your battery gets charged in 1 hour only. So lot of things are happening including swapping and all that. We have a swap model also. It is already available in our fleet. Swap model is also there. So there are many other things and about the adoption, I think I will add 1 or 2 more points. Just allow me to add 1 or 2 points. Like we have seen in electric cars, what EESL has done, CESL and EESL are government companies. Basically, they do tenders on behalf of government. So in case of electric cars, they have done a tender of 10,000 cars, electric cars, to bring the momentum that how electric cars will come on road, because people were not buying electric cars at that time. So this tender, what they do, they allocated these cars to a lot of ministries, and a lot of taxis and electric cars were seen on the road. And slowly and slowly it was picked in the taxis. So on airports and everywhere you see now the concept has come of electric cars. So similarly for electric trucks, government can do the similar kind of thing for the ports or for the mines which is owned by the government. Because a lot of government involvement is there in different PSUs, and if some kind of this thing is done for 1,000 trucks or 2,000 trucks, then it will set the momentum. People will see, okay, this is happening there and this is the report. So there is no, people are running for small POCs, there is no point doing small POCs. You come up with a big tender, because now these trucks are running on road for 2-3 years. So everybody is aware of this thing. So this kind of thing can be done. Thank you.
Yes, sir, please.
I think Sunil has covered most of the points which almost is echoing, because we are in the same boat. Yeah. So thank you very much, Pat. Yeah, I have 1 or 2 more points I would like to add here. One is like, in fact, I'll take a cue from whatever he has said. Today, if you take an operator, fleet operator, in case of a diesel thing, there is a major fleet operator. He goes and places an order in this one and he gets it. And he doesn't bother about cost, because he's getting the loan. Everything is established today. Because of the very huge cost, there is a hesitation from his side. Should I buy it or not? Because of very low volume, should I produce it or not? Should I invest this much from the OEM side? So there has to be a cartel, or I should not use the word cartel, there should be a group wherein the manufacturer of goods, and a shipper, my OEM who is going to be doing the vehicle, the charge infra, and the end user, or I can say the customer who is going to receive the freight. If all these 5 forms a part of a group, kind of an agreement between them, it can be AMC or back-to-back agreement, there will be a minimum guarantee for the charge infra provider to get some revenue, minimum guaranteed income from every month. Same way, kind of a revenue for the shippers, whether there is a freight or not. If he is getting some minimum revenue, kind of a thing, minimum guaranteed per month, then there will be kind of that financial risk is actually to extent is reduced, so that everyone will be happy to participate, and to automatically that kind of model may work. Maybe it can start with a captive market, something similar to maybe within steel industry or within a logistic industry, within cement industry, wherein this kind of a cartel, kind of an agreement can be formed. Maybe it can be moderated by the government, a special vehicle, purpose vehicle. They can do this, and it can really break the ice, something like, so that it's kind of a assurance with everyone. Everyone is benefited. There is a win-win situation, I can say. Suppose government is giving a incentive, somebody has put infrastructure for the chargers, but no one is there to come and charge it in the particular this one, and he is always unsure about his revenues, day-to-day revenues, how he is going to pay the loan. So unless until there is a kind of a minimum guaranteed commitment within a closed cartel, then he will be able to invest that money, his part of money, and also this is one way of looking at it. So similar kind of a thing, since for buses, all are, in case of buses, it's running within a defined boundary, within a city, Delhi, Ahmedabad, Patna, wherever it is. If somebody is putting a charger, he has got a assurance that somebody is going to come and do the charging. Maybe 20 vehicles per day, 100 vehicles per day. In case of a truck, there is no assurance. I'm just saying only for the charger alone. Same thing with the truck manufacturer also. Same thing with the, so even for the end user, unless until there is a guaranteed freight demand, why should he buy the freight? And he may not be able to pay the EMI or something like. So this kind of a back-to-back agreement will help a lot in penetrating the market, or at least to trigger the demand or trigger the sales first.
But I have a question here. I mean, see, what I'm working on is, like, say, the 1.5 ton truck, and I know you're talking bigger. I'm coming out with, say, a price max I had taken out earlier, but they were like $15,000, right? If you come something around 10, I think then you actually have a TCO model that works. Now I don't need any support from anybody, right? I think you've got to start, I think, for the heavier trucks, and I think Bhatnagar and Parthiban, you're talking absolutely right what needs to be done. But I'll be honest with you, you'll have to go back at the drawing board. 150 trucks is huge, but I think you should be putting 15,000, right? And I think the only way possible will be if you bring that cost down, right? Am I wrong? Am I wrong that no matter what we talk about, that is something that you need to really focus on also.
No, TCO is very important part, because see, any operator or any investor first will look for the TCO, that how his money will come back. So generally it all depends on running, because in electric vehicle it is saying that either you run or you charge. It should not be standing anytime. If you want a fast TCO, then keep it running. So that is the best thing. Like in our trucks, we have a 2-driver system with a sleeper coach on the back, so that it keep on running. If one driver is taking rest, the other driver can take over. So that is one thing. Second thing, I was in Rwanda last week. Such a small country, population size of around Delhi only, they have given a dictate to the banks that 20% finance will go only for the green vehicles or solar. Only 80% will go to the public otherwise. So if some kind of this policy mechanism is there to promote the electric vehicles, finance is available, then people will go. Because today major hurdle is finance. Nobody want to invest such a big, large amount in finance. So we should take lead that how world is doing. California is doing in different way, Rwanda is doing in different way, other countries are doing in different way. We should take a lead from them to promote this thing and to make this program successful.
Great, thank you. Quite a valid point about how global learnings and experiences can be brought to India. And while Fame 3 is being framed and it will be released soon, at least that's our understanding. Mr. Narang is laughing. And there has been a pending demand from the EV industry that EV should be brought under the priority sector lending, the 5% bracket at RBI. So while that debate still goes on, can we also get some thoughts from Mr. Kumar on what SwitchLabs is doing in terms of being an operator? What kind of targets are you looking at in terms of deploying XYZ number of trucks, and which is a viable business model that has worked for you so far?
Yeah, so basically as an operator, if you see, there are some points that needs to be seen when we are deploying EV trucks vis-a-vis an ICE truck. For example, there has to be a long-term contract in place rather than a short-term in ICE. In the case of ICE vehicles, unless there is a long-term contract, it becomes very difficult for us to bring that economical parity, I would say, with ICE engine. Second is, as Sunil sir also said, the asset utility is very important, and for that you need a green channel. So, for example, the current deployment that we have access a green channel for loading and both unloading, which makes the running time approximately, and the asset utility today is 1.5x of the diesel truck on the same route for the same company of the EV trucks. So that's a very important thing, which is green channel. Apart from that, as Mr. Parthiban also mentioned, minimum guarantees, not just for the operator, but even when you're going for lending, I mean, either it could be leasing or for debt from NBFC, it is very important that you have a minimum guarantee from the client in place, so that you have a proper forecast in terms of the minimum revenue that you're going to create every month. So as an operator of EV trucks, these three are the key points which needs to be taken care of when, and if this EV truck in heavy duty segment has to scale, even the client has to understand, and the operators have to understand these things, because unless there is a long-term contract and high asset utility, we are basically electrifying a particular route, a fixed route, right? Which also needs capital. The chargers itself and the infrastructure itself takes a decent capital for fast charging. So with long-term contracts and high asset utility, things are economically, better, I would say, than a diesel truck today.
Great. Thank you for those insights. Extremely helpful. Last word from Mr. Bhatla on the infrastructure. I know you're working on the four-wheeler passenger side for charging infrastructure, but what are your thoughts on scaling electric truck or charging infrastructure for electric trucks? I'll take a cue from the global example of how a lot of countries will be looking at green freight corridors, which run from one country to another. So if we could solve the problem for India, it could become an example for other countries to follow as well. So if you could share some.
Yeah, thank you. So I think probably, as I said earlier also, in India primarily, we can we can follow certain steps what other countries has done. But I think particularly we can focus on one or two corridors first, specifically the high traffic corridors. We can electrify that, and then scale up, then try to scale up, the business from there. And as I said, primarily, electric truck infrastructure would be a different different game altogether from a, four-wheeler passenger car infrastructure. Because the requirement of power load is high. The type of amenities, the type of, resting points are different as compared to other. Obviously, when you are building a CPO, whoever is building a, infrastructure for a four-wheeler passenger car, probably, there would be a very less chances that the electric truck will go and stop there and charge, right? Because that would be a certain premium points along the highway or food points. So obviously, separate infrastructure maybe at certain highways may be required for catering the truck infrastructure. And companies like, I think GOBP particularly, because they have presence along all the highways in India with their, petrol stations are already there. And as I said, that we have also added truck spots also. So that, that kind of facilities and arrangement to even the drivers will help in, help in the charging infrastructure also, and also save their time and efforts for, finding a right place to charge and waiting time.
Thank you so much. Just being mindful of the time, we have about 15 minutes left. So if there are any questions from the audience, I see a hand up. If someone could pass a mic to the gentleman in the middle of the floor. Drew, by the way, the fly loves the conversation that is happening here. It's giving us kisses one by one.
Thank you. My name is Parthiban. I wrote the strategy for the Northern Corridor in East Africa. I'm writing for Central Corridor. I'm writing for South Asia. So I'm ex-EDF and Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers. I said this because I know some of the panelists will now understand what I'm trying to say here. So first of all, if somebody thinks that the truckers will stop at 2 hours, 4 hours, and 200 kilometers, I think they need to go back to the truck drawing board and understand the trucking industry in India once again. Truckers like to drive for a little longer, and in India, they drive for sometime 8 hours at a stretch. So please plan those things accordingly. There was one thing that I heard on the ESL model, and I think India did something very similar at one point of time, and we called it a JNURM model when we procured buses for the public sector organizations. And Mr. Parthiban, you might remember that time CVBU was very much involved in providing those buses, at least for many of those Tamil Nadu states. What I'm trying to say is that if any of you attended the PMO meeting, which happened 2 weeks back on the FAME 3, you will realize that the clarity of the government on how it is looking at EV trucks is still not clear. Otherwise, what Mr. Narang just said, that they should remove all the subsidies from two-wheelers and three-wheelers, would have happened by now, and we would have seen a much interesting CBU import or other import duties, import structure. So we don't see that. So obviously there is a lack of clarity on that. Now, under the given circumstances, if you look at the JNURM model, the people who made the JNURM model was not the government. The trigger was actually the industry. It was CM who wrote the initial concept for JNURM. What I'm trying to say is ICT probably is in a very beautiful space right now to write a similar concept where we pool the interest from the truck users who could be procurement or the buyers, and then give the numbers. Because as long as the numbers are not clear to OEMs will never be able to pitch you a right price. The pricing depends on the numbers and that clarity. So I think from that perspective, it becomes very, very useful if we can do that. Otherwise, I think, Mr. Narang, we should just listen to what Mr. Narang just said, that any other number is just far-fetched and dream. Thank you.
It's very, very valid. You're talking absolutely. But my only suggestion there is that I think that we, I think the government has thought about, in my view, trucks. There is at this bureaucracy level a big support, from all the meetings that I continuously push electric trucks on. But I think that I think what really needs to happen in this country, at least, is to align forces, whether it's internally or externally. And what Bhatnagar is saying, and obviously Ashok, you guys are doing some great work. And I think, to give 10-year warranty and to extend it to further, super. I think this is something that is extremely important. I do think that on the lower size trucks, my friend, I think, at least for me, I'm gonna give solutions where the pricing or the TCO model will work. And I'll be honest, when the government comes, the government comes. I just don't think that, and I appreciate ICCT, these guys are doing some great work. They should be able to push it. But I will also say, some of the work that you guys are doing will continually push the envelope. It's like being on that front line, protecting that country. That guy or that lady says, I'm making no money. Why am I taking a bullet for all these people having, a great life in their homes? So I think you're like those, at least on the, I'm working on the smaller trucks, but the people that are working on the bigger trucks, you're really, to me, are those real soldiers up front that are taking the pain to break through, to give a solution. And I think the only way possible is, I think the other solution, which I've been to Rwanda and I understand what you're talking about. I think if you can set up a business where maybe to Africa or to Saudi, where Norm's getting built, or other parts of the world, Make in India for the world, will give you that time. Because at the end of the day, this is something that will take time. You were talking about end users using it. Your end users will again say, how much money are you saving? I did a trial, and I'll be honest, we did a trial for over 1.5 years in Dubai, all right, with the 1 ton and the 3 ton trucks. And you know what they said at the end of it? How much money am I saving versus the ICE? So all of these talks up there, when it comes down here, it always comes to the cost. But you're absolutely right, my friend. I think, this is a journey. Some of us have to take a long, long journey by ourselves, but I appreciate some of my friends here who are taking the journey.
Here, what is the plus point? I will tell you, the costs are falling. See, what is happening presently, the lithium batteries, which were so expensive around 2 years or 2.5 years back, are now available at 50% lesser rate. So the rates are coming down. New technologies are coming where people are not using critical minerals. When you use nickel, manganese, cobalt and lithium, these are known as critical minerals. This increases your cost of battery. So in heavy duty trucks and in most of the vehicles, 3-wheeler and other vehicles, where energy density is not a big issue, we go for lithium iron phosphate batteries, thereby avoiding nickel, manganese and cobalt, using lithium 6-7% and your iron phosphate. So new technologies are coming, rates are coming down, and in a EV, earlier the rate of battery constitute close to 40 to 42%, now it has come down to 30% because rates are coming down. So this is a very positive development for the industry, and in coming days it is going down further because every quarter we are seeing these rates are coming down because of demand supply thing, because of new technologies. Now what is happening actually, like in our truck we are using lithium iron phosphate. In lithium iron phosphate there is an energy density of close to 160 to 180 watt hour per kg. Now this is being improved to 500 watt hour per kg at the world level. So if we have that kind of battery, if we have that kind of technology where people are mixing manganese in the lithium iron phosphate to bring up the voltage and increasing the energy density, So all these technology development will help reduction in the cost to a great extent. So these all are very positive developments which are happening for electric vehicle industry.
Thank you to the panelists. Any more questions? Yes, yes, sir.
In all of these points, one thing I just want to ask whether there is an action from the insurance perspective, like within the TCO constraints. Is there any player that's saying, hey, I'll offer some insurance for whatever premium, which lets you keep the TCO positive, and then the third party agency, whatever covers either the project risk, right, from a cash flow perspective, or credit risk from the operator perspective? I understand we have a very fragmented operator base, right? From those two specific angles, is there any insurance play is what I wanted to ask.
Are you talking about a buyback policy? A buyback policy on the vehicle, or when you
Like a
say
default
insurance?
risk.
Pardon?
Like a default risk, basically.
Yeah, I think that needs to happen. At least I am very close to doing something like this. You need scale. You need volume on this. I think on the 2 and the 3 we've achieved that. But I think that is something definitely this year I'm going to do so that will make the finances a lot more comfortable. So the interest rates, if the interest rates can come down, I think even on your trucks, right? And if you're already giving a 10 to 15 year warranty, I mean, you're already actually saying it's a buyback anyway, right? So that's already there. So I think that's in the works. This journey, we all started, some of us started a long time ago, some have just joined the bandwagon. So I think this is definitely in the works, and you're going to see more of this, I think, this year, next year, on what you're talking about.
Thank you so much. Any other questions from the audience?
Hello.
Gentleman, right? Sorry.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yeah.
So, my name is Ajay. Actually, I just want to add one point. Everybody in normal trucking industry, there is a practice of selling vehicle after 4 or 5 years in secondary market. But as of now, there is no secondary market exist especially in EV trucking segment. So that's why, since OEM is supportive, and all the OEM, not only IPLT, but all the OEM with whom we have talked, they are ready to give us a long-term, AMC warranties with a eventual battery change as well. So these kind of AMC will help us, and that's why we are going for a longer-term contract. So we don't need a secondary market itself. We have to, the success formula is you have to sweat your assets for its lifetime and have to run it more efficiently. So that's the only point I want to make in answer to Uday sir, how you are making money. So we are as of now, we are cash positive, and we are generating a small cash. Obviously, our financing cost is higher, but as the financing cost will settle in next coming months or with some government incentive, we will be in better position than any ICE trucker. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. A last question from the gentleman at the back, and then we'll wrap up.
Good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, thank you so much, gentlemen, for the wonderful insights that shared with all of us. Well, I represent a company called Electra Green Tech. While we are largely known for electric buses, but yes, we do have some bit of presence in electric tipper segment also. So there was a discussion point that, probably aggregate scheme on the lines of CSL, like what the government did for buses, can be brought down for, trucks as well. Honestly speaking, I hope and I pray something like this happens. But we have to understand that buses are largely for the public use. Procuring trucks that way, probably the government will find it hard to justify the cost behind it. Even the big PSUs like NHPC, NTPC, they generally don't go truck shopping. It's usually the contractor actually that is working on the projects, has to procure the machinery and all. So the issue that I'm trying to hint at is that clearly finance is the issue that is hampering the growth of the industry. Last year, the Parliamentary Standing Committee in its report, they recommended that, priority sector lending should be extended to trucks, e-trucks particularly. More than 22 lawmakers from both houses of the parliament, they agreed on something. They devoted on this issue for months, and it saw participation from senior bureaucrats of all, concerned ministries, be it Ministry of Heavy Industries, Ministry of Powers and everything. The MHI agreed with the findings of the report, and they concluded that yes, PSL should be allowed. but it was RBI that shot down the proposal completely. So my question is rather fundamental in nature. Have we identified the right stakeholders for us as an industry? Why are we not inviting RBI? Because clearly RBI has got some bit of autonomy when it comes to taking decisions on financing and all. So why aren't we inviting RBI to be a part of all such discussions where we are discussing the prospects of how to increase the sales of trucks and tippers in India? Because clearly their role is biggest in India. So your thoughts. Do you think engaging with RBI can have a positive impact on this whole exercise? Thank you.
Yeah. What you said, see, actually what is happening, there is a chain in between known as LSP, the Logistics Service Provider. So all these big companies or big government organizations, they don't do the logistics themselves. They come out with a contract of 6 months or 3 months or 1 year, and the rate is fixed and the LSP gives the service. So this is a kind of model which is operating already in the ICE, and same model is being replicated in the electric vehicles. But now trucking industry, the electric truck is a new industry in India, and companies who are doing, like a lot of steel making companies are there or aluminum companies are there, which are having very heavy loads. Even in ports you see so many containers are unloading every minute. So if government comes up with some sort of thing, aggregating all the demand and let the LSP operate, because see, LSP is looking only for the business volume. If there is some contracted volume, he is ready to do immediately. But problem is that the volume is not clear. So we just want to aggregate the demand. So that is the reason we gave this example.
Thank you so much. A lovely session and great points. I would just like to highlight that we have the Norwegian EV Association here in the room, and we have Drew, who's our top boss at ICCT as well. So if you would, yeah, big round of applause. If you would like to have conversations with them, they are around, and there would be an EV enthusiast session in the evening as well, if you would like to join that after the event is over. Thank you, a big thank you to all the panelists here. A big round of applause for the panelists for being so candid